Good afternoon and welcome to this very special show with my friend Lilach. Good afternoon, Lilach.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And it's good to actually get together and chat because this is the first. We've been friends, connected for over 10 years, haven't we?
I know, and you know, it's really funny. I've never heard your voice before, and it's really interesting because when you imagine someone big, your accent is very different. Is there an echo? I can hear an echo. Can you hear it? It's me.
Yeah, I've got it. Can you hear an echo now when I'm speaking?
No, I can just hear myself.
All right, okay. Just do a quick sound check. Is it?
Yeah, apparently I sound a little bit in and out, but I'm exhausted. Shall I come in and out?
Yeah, we'll pause the recording. Right. Good afternoon and welcome to this very special show with Lilach Bullock, and we're now joined by Nicola as well. So we're going to be able to answer your questions on it. And Lilach, we've known each other quite a while.
We have. It's been what, 10 years? Goodness.
It has.
I mean, our first time that we've actually properly spoken as well.
It is because of this wondrous Blab system.
I know, which when it works is great, and when it doesn't.
Well, when it works, it is superb. And just for our British followers today, this was Bebo. Bebo became Blab, and the whole of Blab is British financed. So whilst the technology might be Google, this is a British finance site. Michael Birch, who sold Bebo for 850 million, bought it back for 1 million from AOL, and now transformed it into Blab. So that's where we're at. We're on the British side, which is good.
That is good. Very good.
Okay. That's a bit of the backstory. That's the backstory of Blab. But today we're looking at making a social media account. Mm-hmm. Now, I took that from your website.
I know. I saw it.
I saw it. So, okay.
Original.
My first question is, how do you make social media account? I mean, you advise people in the UK and the States, in fact, all in Europe as well.
Yeah.
How to get their social media going for real.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the question? How do you make it count? Or
yeah.
Okay. I think it boils down to what results do you want to achieve? You know, are you looking to raise brand awareness? Are you looking to raise funds? Are you looking to, promote your charity? Are you looking to generate leads and sales? Everybody uses it for very different reasons. Companies use it to manage customer service. And I think it boils down to why do you want to use it? Working out a plan and a strategy to get those end results. And I think gone are the days where we should be using it for the whole vanity side, to gain likes and things like that, because that does not convert into money. It really doesn't. So I think it boils down to the planning stages and what are your objectives from social media. So
in order to get where you want to go, you've got to work out where you're headed, and that's the starting point is the end.
Absolutely. It's very simple. You kind of work backwards to where you want to be and work out how you're going to get there. And it's not just using social media. On its own, social media actually isn't that effective. It's using the different tools. It's combining it with content and building relationships and joint ventures and little things like, how we're speaking now. So there's a lot more to it than simply posting a tweet on Twitter. It's a lot more strategic than that.
Right. Okay. So where would you start if let's take an imaginary, or take a real company if you want, one of your customers as an example. Is a blog important?
100%. But again, with a blog, I mean, there's so many different things that's important. I mean, I'm one of the very few people who's not on Snapchat. I have Snapchat, but I'm not using it. And the reason why I'm not is because if I start using it, it's going to take me away from another social network where I'm getting really, really good results from, and I have a very large following from. So it's also about thinking about how much time you have, what your skill set is. Can you create content? Can you create images? Do you need to outsource things? And working out where you're going to focus your time, because it can completely zap all your time. If I could create a strategy which would give you amazing results, but if you don't have the time or the resources to do it, then you're not going to get the results. So it's about being very, very focused and sorry.
Yeah, so you've got to be practical. But do you actually you need your own website and blog? I mean, I had it described to me the other day that what you're actually doing. I mean, we're on the World Wide Web, but you're actually building your own web.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a dangerous game to rely. There's a lot of people who approach me and they say, look, I've got a Facebook page. I don't have time to have my website as well, and I send everyone there anyway, and that's where they get results from. But the reality is you should never rely on one social network because you don't have control over it. And although you don't have complete control of your website, you have the most control of your website than of social media networks. And I'm not suggesting Facebook is going to go tomorrow. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. But Facebook changes a lot of the rules. I mean, I can remember, do you remember ages ago when you could send a message to everybody who liked your Facebook page? When they stopped that, it destroyed so many people's businesses as a result because they couldn't get in touch with them. They had all these fans, hundreds of thousands of fans, and they couldn't get back in touch with them, and they hadn't captured their names and email addresses. So, there's little things like that. Always try and have your own assets as much as possible. So if you have a website, capture every single person who visits it as much as you possibly can.
Right. And one of the things I've heard recently on a lot of Blabs is, and I can see the logic of it, is that the money is in the list.
Yeah, absolutely. The money is in the list because, again, that's something that you can control. It's an asset of yours and you can take it anywhere. So whether you change email providers or change businesses, that belongs to you technically. And we should all be trying to build our list so that we can build that relationship and ultimately sell to. A lot of people get scared to sell to their list, to email, the frequency changes. But the reality is that we are all in business and we have to be more savvy and have a tougher skin. Over the years, I've had to learn to have a much tougher skin, that not everybody is going to like me, and that's okay. But my list is ultimately for me to sell to. I'm not in business. Although I like to give a lot of free information and provide a lot of value, at the end of the day, I need to make an income. And if you're not going to buy from me, then, that's fine. But my focus is obviously on that as well.
Yes, I mean, that's the whole point of social media. It's very difficult. We've got to be social and network, but we're all at some point going to be saying, my services aren't free entirely. And that's true of your clients, isn't it? I mean, they're coming on social media to actually market. Social media is marketing. It's the days of referrals have changed, haven't they? Where you actually went knocking on doors or ring people up. The strategy has changed.
Yeah, very much so. And I think we get afraid. I think it's more of a UK thing. I mean, I have more clients overseas than I do in the UK, and they have a very different mentality to money and success and all sorts of things. Whereas the UK. And it sounds really sexist, but I think as a female business owner, you're less strong in terms of asking for money. I don't know why. I've worked with a lot of female women, and a lot of them tend to be like this as well. Yeah. And sometimes they charge less than men and all sorts of things. And I think, we are in business to make an income. We are in business to make a difference and provide value and make an impact. But we shouldn't feel guilty or made to feel bad for asking. And it's a subtle way of doing it. If you're purely selling, then obviously that's going to turn off people. But if you're providing a lot of value as well, then you shouldn't be afraid to say, hey, if you like my stuff, do you want to consider exploring it further?
Right. So I'm going to set a Twitter account. I'm going to buy 10,000 followers. I'm going to tweet 30 times a day. Same thing. What are we doing wrong? Why are people not responding?
Well, first of all, if you bought 10,000 followers straight away, your account would probably be shut down by Twitter very quickly. So if you're going to buy them, which obviously I don't recommend, then stagger them. It's really interesting because I could ask you a question. People talk about how bad it is to buy Facebook likes and Twitter followers.
Okay.
But a lot of people do Facebook ad campaigns purely to get likes. So they're doing the same. They're buying them. So which is right and which is wrong? I mean, I think they're both wrong. I don't think you should pay to have likes and numbers, because they don't mean anything, and a lot of them are bots anyway. But yeah, I mean, Twitter's changed so much. I mean, when I first started, it was so easy. Everybody was following you. Now people won't follow you unless you've got a certain amount of followers, and you know, and there's a lot of gaming as well. People still believe that it's about the numbers, and really it's so much more about the quality than the actual numbers.
Right. So you've got to have quality in your blogging and quality in your tweets as well. You've got to pull people in.
Yeah, you've got to pull people in, and that's with the content that you're sharing. It's about, you know, who you're engaging with as well. It takes time, and I think, you know, both Twitter and Facebook are very, very different in how you engage with people. And Twitter's very, very fast as well. And sometimes you just don't have the time to engage with everybody on Twitter, so you have to get a balance as well with how you're going to spend your time and what you're going to be doing.
Right. Okay. Now, I've asked various people this very simple question and had various replies. There are no wrong answers.
Okay.
Automation on Twitter, good or bad?
Good. You cannot be successful on Twitter without automation.
What do you mean by automation? Do you mean scheduling?
Yes. Yeah, basically it's...
I presumed that's what you meant. Is that what you meant?
Lilach, you take the question.
Did you mean...
Yes.
I wanted to know what you meant by automation. Do you mean scheduling?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he meant, yeah. No, absolutely. You cannot have a successful social media campaign without the use of using automation tools. Now, I'm not saying solely rely on them. Obviously, you need to do both. But in my experience from working with hundreds and thousands of different companies, from large corporates to small ones, and also I work with all the tool providers as well. So, you know, I work with Hootsuite and Agora Pulse on all of them. I create a lot of their content. And so I see it from both sides of the coin. And they're there for a reason. I mean, how often... I don't even log into Twitter.
Okay.
I use tools to manage my social media.
Which tools do you use?
Which tools? Oh, my goodness. At the moment, I'm using Agora Pulse.
Okay.
They are Agora Pulse. They are a really, really good social media tool for publishing and also reports. And they've got a lot of other cool features. I'm a massive fan of them. Hootsuite, I don't use anymore. And they were a very big client of mine for a very long time. I think they're great, that they work well for certain people. But I think if you have a lot of content, they aren't as effective. I've used Social Oomph in the past to do recurring scheduled tweets, but now Agora Pulse does that, so that's really cool. There's lots of different tools. Meet Edgar, they're very good. And then you've got all the imagery tools as well, like Canva and Relay That. I use a lot of measuring tools too, so Simply Measured.
Right. Okay.
There's no one tool that does. I have
use Buffer.
A few tools that I use daily. Pardon? I have used Buffer a lot. At the moment, I don't need to, because I'm using a combination of Agora Pulse and Meet Edgar, so I don't have a need for Buffer at the moment. But I mean, I've used every single tool at some stage, and I probably use a handful of tools on a daily basis. And then when I do reporting, I mean, I've used really big enterprise tools as well, like Sysomos and the big ones as well for that. Sorry, my daughter's just come in and asked if she can eat some Doritos, so that's why I'm shaking my head. Sorry. So I think, you know, there is no one tool which ticks every single box, and I think each tool has 2 or 3 key features which are fantastic, and I tend to use each of them for whatever. So manage litter, that's a tool I use quite regularly as well, actually. That's really good to see about your followers as well, commune it, and and trying to understand who are your most influential people that you're following, who you're engaging with most, who are your brand ambassadors. And I'm very into the whole measuring side. I don't think people spend enough time in analysing what's actually going on.
What I'll do when this recording goes out is I'll put links to everything you've mentioned. So who is quickly?
Yeah, sure. I can email them all. I'm not an affiliate for any of them.
Understood.
So.
Right. Okay. Now, the thing that comes across is that you really enjoy social media. What's the magic? What's the magic?
I love it. Well, I love chatting. I just love chatting. I could do this all day. I just love engaging with people. I love the fact. Do you know what? I've traveled all over the world just from social media. I'm very, very proud of how I've become, I lose the term influential like this, but it's opened up doors to me. I work, I'm IBM's influencer, Oracle's, and I get to travel to all their events and meet amazing people. I get to speak all over the world about it, and it's very humbling. It's good. I don't know. I love it. It's completely transformed my business. I've never actually done a paid advert in my life. It's something I'm exploring for myself, just to test, to see. But in the past, all my traffic, all my clients have been through social media or speaking opportunities. Right. So yeah.
True. I mean, it is the beauty of meeting people who you wouldn't otherwise have met, and getting your message out and listening. How important is listening? To.
It's so important, and some of the really big brands are getting it. They're nailing it, and I think we can learn so much from listening. We spend so much time talking and literally broadcasting, and we're not spending enough time listening. And we can listen and we can learn stuff about what's evolving in our industry. We can learn what our consumers and our customers actually want as well. And I think that's the biggest tool and the biggest value we get, from a market research perspective as well. I base my editorial content calendar on listening. I look and I see what people are talking about, what challenges they have, and what they're sharing the most. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from as well.
Watching. I mean, what I find, there's a lot of information that's actually been out on Blab as well in the last couple of weeks. There are regular shows on here, which are very helpful and very interesting. Just a plug for Blab, really. And the more people use it, the better it will be. They say it was British. Right. Okay. Now, what sort of advice would you give to somebody to just generally boost their media presence? What should they pay attention to?
Well, I think it really depends what they want to do. So, I mean, boosting is a very big term. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I think influencer outreach is the most powerful form on Twitter. And again, not enough companies are using it enough. So, for example, I'll give an example because it's a well-known brand. So Greenpeace. So I worked with their campaign Stop Shell last year. And part of it was to do their online PR and also their social media and lots of other things and influencer outreach. And I was really chuffed that I managed to get Ellie Goulding retweet me. And I didn't just, randomly message her. I did a lot of research and finding out who, supports these types of campaigns. And then, I went about it. And my point is, that's a massive, massive boost to the likes of Greenpeace, because obviously she's got millions and millions of followers. But you can duplicate, I'm not saying reach out to celebrities like that, you can duplicate that process for your own brand. Everybody, every industry has influencers, and it just boosts it dramatically, more than advertising. It's very, very powerful.
How do you find that influence?
And should be leveraged much more. Well, there's lots and lots of lists within. I mean, I'm considered an influencer, and I'm on a lot of the lists. And in every industry, they have influential lists, and you can find them. But you can use tools as well. And again, I'll send you links after the call to the different tools that you can use. And just be very careful, because somebody could be considered influential because they've got a really large Twitter following, but actually they don't engage and they don't follow back and all sorts. So there's lots of different variables to influencers. And when I do influencer outreach, I don't just look at the number. I look at how engaged and how likely I am to get a response, and how I can, what's the best way around it.
What do you see happening in social media?
Well, I'm really intrigued to what's going to happen with Snapchat. I'm I think I'm one of the few that's quite skeptical about it. My daughter loves it, and I think it's great.
No, I can't see it either.
I'm not seeing the business value.
Talking to my friend's daughter just about an hour ago, and I can't see a business potential for it, because nothing happens. It basically there's 24 hours and it's gone again. So what is the point of it?
Well, I think it depends on the target audience, if you're trying to, who you're trying to attract. But the challenge we have with social media is it takes up so much time. And if we're spending time on Snapchat, it's taking us away from time from where we could be on other places. And if you're starting out fresh on social media, then it's worth exploring every single network and seeing which one gives you the best return. Whereas for somebody like myself who's already getting a very big return from other networks, if I either then have to work more hours, which I don't want to do, or it's taking me away from something else. So I'm skeptical with Snapchat. It seems like a lot of fun, but I'm not seeing at the moment anyone making money from it. And so I don't jump on. A lot of people jumped on. Do you remember Elo? Goodness, that went very quick, didn't it? And there was another one. What was it? I can't remember what it was. Yeah, so there's pros and cons. The advantage of being on there at the moment is, it's still quite new and it's much easier to build up a network. I credit Twitter, one of the reasons why I've managed to get a larger network so quickly was because I was there at the very beginning when it was much easier.
Sorry,
so I am conscious of me not
lost something there. Sorry.
You all right, Nicola?
Yeah, I just pressed lots of buttons and it all went all over the place.
All right, okay. We can still hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Right. Lilach, if you pick.
So I'm just conscious that, don't always jump on to the next thing.
No, we're talking about.
Sorry, I can't remember the question. Sorry, I got mixed up.
Should we get involved?
Yeah, so I think it's good to explore them, and because of my industry, I need to know about it and I need to use it and I need to find the time, and that's something that I will do. But I have to. I'm very. So, for example, last year I was in social media marketing world, and there's a lot of people who go there. It's great fun, and it's fantastic to meet with all the influencers and bloggers and all the people, but I didn't see much work changing hands. And I would ask people, what's your ROI? Why are you here? What are you trying to achieve? And a lot of them were there for the fun, and that's fantastic and good for them. But for me, everything I do, unless I go in and I go, okay, so this exit, so this day I'm going to be doing this, and I know I'm not going to get an ROI, but I'm going to enjoy it. And why not? It's a fun, it's a treat. Or I go and I think, right, I'm going to get X number of clients, X number of leads. And it's quite ruthless in a way. But I found that by being like that, my results are tenfold. And I think, No, I just think that social media, I think people need to have at the back of their mind, what ROI am I getting from this? Because otherwise they're just blindly doing it, and then they get all skeptical and say, "Oh, it doesn't work."
The number of people
there's a reason why it doesn't work.
Who said social media doesn't work. There are tens, hundreds, if not thousands, of people who don't actually understand why their social media doesn't work. And generally speaking, it's because they're broadcasting, isn't it?
It's because they're broadcasting, it's because they've bought likes, it's because they're not targeting their audience, it's because they're only selling. That's the big thing. They're not providing any value. They don't understand content. You have a look at their blog and they may be blogging every few months. The articles have no value. And in fact, I would call them news. articles. I wouldn't call them blogging. You know, for me, blogging is providing value and is educating, inspiring, and motivating people. And if they're not doing that, then they're not really blogging.
I've found many a new piece of software, many a new idea on your website, and we'll put the link in later. Right, okay. Is there anybody got any? Just take a break for a moment, and I'll ask if anybody's got any questions. If you have.
Mark asked an interesting question, actually. Shouldn't social media be social? Isn't enjoyment also an ROI? Absolutely, and that's what you have to decide what you want out of it. I'm on social media. This is where I make my income. This is my business, and people who approach me, generally speaking, want to make money from social media, and that will either be somebody who's trying to launch a book, a charity who's trying to raise funds, somebody who's trying to do crowdfunding, or be a company. And also, you know, even the bigger companies who use social media as a listening tool, they are ultimately doing it to save money, because it cuts them down on overheads of having telephone operators. So savvy people who use social media are doing it purely to either make money or save money.
Indeed. Mark, thank you for your question. If anybody else has questions, just type /Q, bottom right-hand corner, followed by text your question, and then Lilach will answer it, aided by myself and Nicola, but I don't think that's necessary. We're talking... Make your social media account with Lilach, and we are recording. If you like what we're saying, as some people have been doing, you can click our photographs and give us props. It means that we're actually making sense, and it should be at the end of this, and Nicola and I don't mind that Lilach has the most props. All you need to do is click on a photo. Now, if you want... I know,
if I bothered about those things, I wouldn't be where I am.
It's just a bit of fun. If you like what we're saying, then you can share the last 30 seconds of the show out onto Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah,
and
we've done that, Steve.
Thank you very much. That will give people a flavour of what the show is like, and it will help promote Blab as well. And all is good.
I went to a social media course today with somebody locally, and she came up with something that Facebook is kind of like a private family party, and people don't like interacting with other people. It's a bit kind of stalkery, whereas Twitter is a bit like a cocktail party. Everyone's going, hey, here I am. And then you can just quite easily go into a conversation and people don't mind, because it's not that you're a stalker or anything. So I don't know how you feel about that sort of view of it.
Well, I think Twitter is, obviously you can't see as much into that person's life, but I think it's interesting, the whole stalking thing, isn't it? We all do it, don't we? You know, that's I think that's why one of the reasons why Facebook is so successful, actually. But I think it depends on the person and what you're trying to achieve from it. So if you're in there to get business and you're, you know, in the groups and you don't know people so well, I think obviously it's like you go to a party, you know, you're on your best behavior, you're more polite, you're more conservative, and then as you get to know people, you're more honest about your opinions. Or you could have the alternative approach, go in and be ballsy to get lots of notice and attention and quicker results. So it depends on how you're doing it. I mean, I've gone into groups and literally given my opinion, and I haven't known anybody. And I think that also boils down to confidence. And I think if you're in the right groups where it's in your expertise and skill set, then it's much easier. Whereas so make sure that you're targeting the right groups and the right people, because then if you don't know them, it's much easier to voice your opinions and be more seen. And if you're a timid mouse, then you shouldn't be using social media. You need to find other methods, because the results won't be good enough.
What I would ask, for someone who, obviously I've used social media quite a lot, far too much time on Facebook, but for someone who has no social media whatsoever, what would you advise as the best package for them to start on, or how would they go about starting up their presence?
Well, the thing is, it's where their audience is. So if their audience is B2B, then LinkedIn. if it's B2B and also consumers, then Twitter. Twitter is the quickest way to get results over all the social networks, because it's just so much easier to get followers and to start engaging on there. Facebook is really, really tricky if you don't have an ad spend.
What's this drop-in thing you sent me, Steve? Oh, right, okay.
Oh, no, sorry, right, okay. I just because your presence is helping the show, I've just made you a host.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not totally altruistic. It means that when we finish this, the replay will be on Lilach's profile, my profile, and your profile.
Oh, fabulous. Okay.
Okay. So.
Right.
Okay, if there are any more questions, then please feel free to ask. And we've been recording for the last half hour or so, and we've been on our best behaviour. Lilach, if you want to post a link to your site, that would be good. And I found a lot of wonderful information in your download today. And if you put oh yeah.
Oh, did you like it? My
traffic.
Headline. Which one? My headlines or my traffic one?
We're all after more traffic.
Oh, my traffic one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you want to give a quick overview of it, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The traffic. Well, I love generating free traffic, and I think website traffic is about, everyone's obsessed with getting more traffic, but there's several things to it. First of all, you need to be converting your existing traffic. And that's the other thing with, Twitter. And so in social media in general, we all want more. And it's much easier to actually focus on converting what we have existing. So one of the things, it's very important that you obviously try and convert your traffic as well, but it's also equally important to have lots and lots of different traffic streams, referral traffic streams. So don't just rely on one source, have lots. And in your Google Analytics, you can see how many referrals you have. And at any one time, I have about 600 different forms of traffic linking into me. And that is really, really important to have as many as possible. And the traffic cheat sheet has lots and lots of different ways to drive traffic. I think there's 200 in there.
Something you can go back and refer to and make sure you're on the right track. I was chatting to Mike Alton the other day.
Yes.
And because you know each other, yes? Alton. The guy who...
Mike...
Yeah, he said to say hello to you.
Yes, Mike, he's lovely, yes.
Because he's a good guy. He
yes.
He and I chatted for about 40 minutes, and he was actually talking about getting more from your blog and promoting it more, and the way of actually doing it. What I find wonderful is you all know each other and you all help each other.
Yeah, I think you have to, and I think you've got to put your ego to one side. There's too much of that online. And I think, we're all here to help everybody, and that's how we get on. I can see there's some interesting questions. Am I allowed to answer some of them? Okay, so is there any advantage to buying followers for any social media site? Okay, so I am obviously against buying social media followers, and I would never, ever encourage anybody to do it. However, there is a reason why people do. And I'll give you one example of how it helped a company that I worked with. They were trying to raise £500,000, and one of the things they needed to do was to show a lot of social proof and numbers. So they bought everything from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, and they got the money. So more for the investors. But what it did do is the work that we then had to do, it skewed the numbers, and we had a nightmare trying to sort it all out and all of that. But my point is that there is some value. I cannot deny it. It's not something I advocate. It's not something I would personally do. And I think you have to be very, very careful. But if you're trying to go after investment, and I work with a lot of companies who do, and I do a lot of crowdfunding campaigns with people, it can make a difference. And it shouldn't. It really, really shouldn't. But I'm being brutally honest with you. I've seen it make a difference. So that's the only advantage. If you were to buy traffic, which site would you target? Well, I mean, I wouldn't. you have to question why you want to buy traffic. If you're looking for investment and you have to show your traffic, you need to find out how savvy your investors are. Okay, so are they going to look at the numbers? Are they going to look at your bounce rate? If they're going to be looking at your bounce rate and things like that, buying traffic doesn't work, because your bounce rate will be through the roof and they'll be able to tell. So if you don't have potential investors who are looking at, in detail at the numbers, then you can. Absolutely. In an ideal world, it would be, but that's the problem. You see, it's cheaper to buy than to use somebody like myself. But you're talking, these people, if they're trying to raise 500,000, £1 million or dollars, it's a quick fix, and they will, and it's worse. And it's scary. I mean, people always ask, why do people add them to groups? Why do people buy likes? Why do they buy followers? Why is there so much spam online? And we have to ask, well, it's obviously working for some people. And whilst, I want to emphasize, I don't advocate it. It's not something I've ever done or do. Yeah. I do know from clients who, done it. But, you have to be really careful, because you could get your accounts closed. It is a big risk. But for companies who are about to go through a funding exercise and want to raise money and need to put their numbers up very quickly.
Yeah. So it depends on why you're doing it. And
it does depend on why you're doing it, but then what happens is when you've raised the money, you've then got all these people, which is, a big mess, and it skews up the numbers. And then if you have to go for another round of funding, which I've also worked with companies have had to do, we've then had to fix those numbers and increase the engagement and work on the engagement sides and things like that. But it really varies. But yes, it is a quick fix, and everyone says it's targeted. It's not targeted. Buying likes or views or whatever is never targeted.
I'm just trying to stop the right-hand side scrolling, because I've found a point from Mark which I'd like to bring up. I can go, and Mark says, I'll read it to you, and then you can both react. I think it's always best to use the platform you really enjoy, because that's the one you'll sustain. If you force yourself to use a platform you don't like, just because you think your audience is there, it won't work.
It's a really good question, Mark. I'm afraid I really do disagree with that. But, if your audience... let me read it again. First of all, you shouldn't do something because you think your audience is there. You should do something because you know your audience is there. So you must do your due diligence and your research and find out exactly where they are. So if my audience was solely on Snapchat and I didn't want to do it, then I would outsource somebody to do it, because that's where they are. That's where I have to be. LinkedIn is another network that I should spend more time on. I spend more time on Facebook and Twitter. And yet I get more traffic, and my quality of traffic is higher than LinkedIn. And it's little things like that. It's looking at the quality of the traffic that you're getting. So Twitter, I get the most amount of traffic, LinkedIn, and then Facebook. And yet I spend more time on Facebook than any other social network site. But I think, you obviously have to enjoy what you're doing, because otherwise, you need to be passionate. And there is some truth in what you're saying, Mark, but at the same time, if you're using social media to get results, then you're going to get much better results from being where your audience is. Otherwise, you're just not going to get the results. This is one of the things that I speak with a lot of people. They love Facebook, and they love chatting to people and doing stuff, and yet their audience may not necessarily be there, or they're in the wrong groups, or they're talking to the wrong people. They're talking just to their competitors because they're too scared to sell to to their actual audience, their actual people who could buy from them. Or, social media may not be the right platform. If you don't like where your audience is, maybe you should look at alternative ways.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier something about being persistent. In other words, not persistent. Persistent is one word. You can't just do it and walk away and then come back a month later and miracles happen.
Consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be really consistent, and it's for several reasons. Okay, sorry, that's my daughter. Yeah, no, you need to be consistent in everything you do, and that's so that people can know when they can expect your blog. So if you're going to be blogging 2 to 3 times a week, then they look out for it. You know, when you send an email newsletter, send it ideally the same time that day or that week, or however the frequency. It helps people, it helps them look forward to it, and, you know, and anticipate it as well.
Right. No, we're
Sorry, I can see questions, so I was reading and I got this back.
Right, okay. Undoubtedly, there will be more questions in a moment. Yeah.
It's a shame, Mark, you don't. I just answer Mark. So it's a shame you don't enjoy Twitter. Twitter, if you're looking to drive traffic, Twitter is fantastic as a free way to drive traffic. You can drive a ton of it. You should try StumbleUpon.
Lilach
That's
and I
very, very good for traffic.
Separately, but jointly, a campaign today to attract an audience to this blab. And if you check out the phrase "make your social media count" on tweet reach, you'll find that between us we reached more than 1 million people, and yeah, our numbers were good. Our numbers were good
today. Okay, cool. I would have done it more if you had ever been testing it for this.
It was just that we were both promoting it today because we want to get people involved, and this is where having 84,000 followers on Twitter comes in useful. Because when you want to reach out on a specific campaign, numbers do count, and certainly today, yep.
They do. I mean,
today you have made.
Sorry, no, go on. Sorry, go on.
Count, and it's been a pleasure talking. And I think as we've been running sort of 45 minutes on video, and if we sort of pause now on the video side of things. So if you want to say thank you to everybody who's watching, and then we'll go off air, as it were, but we'll stay sat here, if you know what I mean. So if you just... Sorry, if you want to say anything, a closing statement.
Oh, I see, sorry. Thank you very much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure to finally speak with you both. And if anyone's got any questions or wants some advice, you know, hit me up at lilachbullock.com. I'm on Twitter at Lilach Bullock. And I'll be great
Nicola,
to connect with you.
Thank you for stepping in.
That's okay.
Earlier technical difficulties, and for taking part in the recorded session as well. It's been wonderful. Everybody who's watched us today, we thank you for joining us. If you didn't get the beginning of the recording, then you can find it on YouTube and on Facebook, and no doubt Lilach and I and Nicola will all be promoting it over the weekend as well. So it's been a pleasure, and I'm going to stop the recording now. But thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again. Lilach, I'd love to do this again some other time. Yeah, no,
it's been really good fun.
They're great fun, the first time you do it.
Yeah. True, but it is a question of practice makes it perfect. We're always trying, and this has been a most interesting and informative blab, and we shall carry on now and pause the recording.